Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Salem. I am Stephanie Smith. I am so happy to be with you this morning. Let us rise in body or spirit and join in singing our gathering hymn number 16, "'Tis a Gift to be Simple."
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Salem. I am the Reverend Monica Jacobson-Tennessen. I use she, her pronouns, and I serve this congregation as minister. You are welcome here this morning exactly as you are. Whatever beliefs sustain you, whomever you love, however you understand and express your identities, and in all the ways you are still becoming the person you will be. We gather together this morning in worship to seek the truth, to grow in love, to join in service, to celebrate life's beauty and find healing for its pain, to honor our kinship with each other and with the earth, to create a more compassionate world, beginning with ourselves, to wonder at the mystery that gave us birth, to find courage for the journey's end, and to listen for the wisdom that guides each of us. You are welcome here this morning.
Each week we recite our affirmation, and in thinking about this, I came across an affirmation that I feel speaks to our message today. This is from Leonard Mason, a British Unitarian minister who lived through 2 world wars. Excuse me. We affirm the unfailing renewal of life. Rising from the earth and reaching for the sun, all living creatures shall fulfill themselves. We affirm the steady growth of human companionship. Rising from ancient cradles and reaching for the stars, people the world over shall seek the ways of understanding. We affirm a continuing hope that out of every tragedy, the spirits of the individual shall rise to build a better world. And now let us join together in saying our affirmation. Love is our doctrine. Compassion is our way. Here we seek to create a joyful home for free religious exploration. Build a community of caring fellowship. Nurture the hopes and serve the needs of our world.
I would like to offer a piano piece that was written by my friend Jack. Those of you that know me, I like to do living composers. And I met Jack while we were doing our master's degree together in San Francisco. He lives in Los Angeles and has opened his home to victims of the fires. And when I saw the theme for today, I thought this is really just kind of a perfect piece. So this moto perpetuo is perpetual motion, so you will hear that in the music. And this is a meditation on the California redwoods, and I just love it. If you close your eyes or kind of go to that place, I think those of you that have seen the bigness of redwoods, you can really kind of see someone standing in the middle of the redwood forest just marveling at the beauty of nature.
We light our chalices this morning to find inner peace, love for each other, and faith in ourselves. Let us be welcoming to whomever we meet and kind to all living creatures. Please gather round this light of hope as we share this time together. Each week, we here at UUCS light 3 chalices. The first is for this congregation, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Salem. We light our second chalice for the endearing relationship we have with our partner church in Šimenfalva, Transylvania, Romania. And we light our last chalice for the children and youth in the religious education program and for all the children of the world. Please join together in singing the flame into light.
Today, for our Time for All Ages, we have a special kind of story to share. It is a scientific story, a story about the ecosystem in Yellowstone National Park. And it is a video that we're going to watch together. So, if you are anybody who's noticing that you don't have quite, just a sec, Lorianne, you don't have quite as nice a view of the video as you'd like, you're welcome to come forward where you can see a little better. And if you can see fine from where you are, you're welcome to stay where you are. And we're going to watch this video about what happened when the wolves came back to Yellowstone.
One of the most exciting scientific findings of the past half-century has been the discovery of widespread trophic cascades. A trophic cascade is an ecological process which starts at the top of the food chain and tumbles all the way down to the bottom. And the classic example is what happened in the Yellowstone National Park in the United States when wolves were reintroduced in 1995. Now, we all know that wolves kill various species of animals, but perhaps we're slightly less aware that they give life to many others. Before the wolves turned up, they'd been absent for 70 years, that the numbers of deer, because there was nothing to hunt them, had built up and built up in the Yellowstone Park, and despite efforts by humans to control them, they'd managed to reduce much of the vegetation there to almost nothing. They'd just grazed it away. But as soon as the wolves arrived, even though they were few in number, they started to have the most remarkable effects. First, of course, they killed some of the deer, but that wasn't the major thing. Much more significantly, they radically changed the behavior of the deer. The deer started avoiding certain parts of the park, the places where they could be trapped most easily, particularly the valleys and the gorges. And immediately those places started to regenerate. In some areas, the height of the trees quintupled in just 6 years. Bare valley sides quickly became forests of aspen and willow and cottonwood. And as soon as that happened, the birds started moving in. The number of songbirds and migratory birds started to increase greatly. The number of beavers started to increase because beavers like to eat the trees. And Beavers, like wolves, are ecosystem engineers. They create niches for other species. And the dams they built in the rivers provided habitats for otters and muskrats and ducks and fish and reptiles and amphibians. The wolves killed coyotes, and as a result of that, the number of rabbits and mice began to rise, which meant more hawks, more weasels, more foxes, more badgers. Ravens and bald eagles came down to feed on the carrion that the wolves had left. Bears fed on it too, and their population began to rise as well, partly also because there were more berries growing on the regenerating shrubs. And the bears reinforced the impact of the wolves by killing some of the calves of the deer. But here's where it gets really interesting. The wolves changed the behavior of the rivers. They began to meander less. There was less erosion. The channels narrowed, more pools formed, more riffle sections, all of which were great for wildlife habitats. The rivers changed in response to the wolves. And the reason was that the regenerating forests stabilized the banks so that they collapsed less often, so that the rivers became more fixed in their course. Similarly, by driving the deer out of some places and the vegetation recovering on the valley sides, there was less soil erosion because the vegetation stabilized that as well. So the wolves, small in number, transformed not just the ecosystem of the Yellowstone National Park, this huge area of land, but also its physical geography.
Maybe you kind of thought could make a really big difference. Didn't? You could give them some fish. Yeah. So all kinds of differences can be made by one change in an ecosystem, or one change in a school, or one change in a city. So one of the stories we're going to be thinking about today that the grown-ups are going to think about in here is what kind of impact a small change can make to the story of a whole group. And you have a special time to go think about stories in our religious exploration program. So I'm going to ask the center aisle to form a love arch. If you are somebody who wants to go to RE who did not come forward, you can come on up now and make your way down the love arch in the center aisle as we sing for you. Annie just reminded me that she has cards for the children with January birthdays. So if you were worried that we had missed January birthday observances, we have not missed it. I just missed the step in the service. It happens sometimes. I want to invite you to join with me in opening your hearts. We heard music earlier which invoked the devastating fires in Southern California, and it has been much on my mind and my heart as well. How many people have lost everything? So whatever posture of body, of mind, of heart is best for you, to open, to be part of the flow of love and strength and care, Please join me in that posture now. There are so many communities, not only where people have lost their homes, but where children have no schools to return to. Religious communities have no buildings to gather in. Workplaces have disappeared. Ecosystems have been devastated. We hold in our hearts those who have lost everything. Those people who have lost what they hoped to pass on to their children. Those wild creatures running in panic when no familiar place is safe. As we breathe, may we move love into our bodies and out again, sending it to all those who need it. And as we breathe together, as we feel this flow of love, we remember also all the people who are helping in every way they can. All those gathering clothing and bedding and household needs. All those taking animals in and providing shelter and medical care. The firefighters who have come not only from other states, but from Canada and from Mexico, because we are one continental community, and we must remember this. All those who seek to help and to heal are also part of this flow of love with us today. Let us simply share a few more breaths in silence as we feel the movements of all this love. As you bring your awareness back to this space and this gathering, may we all feel our hearts open, even just a little wider, in this flow of love.
Good morning. I'm Mary Ann Kirkpatrick, and I am one of the new Lifeline's lay ministers. I have some joys and sorrows to share with you today. We have no joys and sorrows that were written in our book. I'd like to remind you that we have a book at the front of the foyer for you to write something if you would like us to read it and share it during the service. We do have some that were submitted online. The first one is related to the wildfires in California. We are shocked and grief-stricken at the destruction by the wildfire in our beloved and beautiful hometown of Altadena, California, a unique and historic town of science, arts, and diversity. There is more written up for this concern, and you can read the entirety on our website would like to see more about what was said for this sorrow. We do have a joy from our facilities team. The walls of Hanneman Hall have been painted. The facilities team wants to thank all of you who made it happen. Last Sunday, many of you volunteered to clear the walls and move furniture so the painting contractor could do its work. The crew chief complimented our preparatory efforts. After the painting was completed, many of you returned to the fellowship hall again to move the furniture, reinstall the speakers and TV monitor, and then set up tables and chairs for today's coffee time. A little more work remains to be done, but we on the facilities team hope you enjoy the new look. Ricky, our friendly therapy dog, and Squeak the cat are here today to welcome pats and loves and hugs, and you'll find them at our Lifelines Lay Ministry table. And of course, as we do each week, we light one more candle for all the sorrows kept close in the heart and all the joys remembered but not shared today. May you find solace and comfort here always. The Lifelines lay ministers, our fellow members, we extend our ministry to members and friends of the congregation who are experiencing loss, illness, or any type of personal or family crisis. We are available to celebrate your joys as well. You can reach out to us by visiting the Lifelines table in Hanneman Hall each Sunday after the service. Our lavender stoles and the lavender badges help to identify us. You can also contact us at the email address on the screen. You can post your joys and concerns in the book in the foyer before church, and you can post them online. There is a link under the title of next Sunday's services. I'd like to also remind you that we are holding Compassionate Connections today. If you'd like some additional emotional support from this community and the Lifelines lay ministers, come to the front of the sanctuary immediately after the service, and then we'll head together to a private space for support. Thank you, and may your day be filled with peace.
Heart song, Comfort Me. Comfort me one more time. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me. Comfort me.
After the reintroduction of gray wolves to Yellowstone and, as anticipated, their culling of deer, trees grew beyond the deer stunt of the mid-century. In their upreach, songbirds nested, who scattered seed for underbrush, and in that cover warrened snowshoe hare. Weasel and water shrew returned, also bold, and came soon hawk and falcon, bald eagle, kestrel, and with them, hawk shadow, falcon shadow. Eagle shade and kestrel shade haunted newly buried runnels where deer no longer rummaged, cautious as they were now of being surprised by wolves. Berries brought bare, while undergrowth and willows growing now right down to the river brought beavers who dam. Muskrats came to the dams, and tadpoles came to the night song of the fathers of tadpoles. With water striders, the dark gray American dipper bobbed in fresh pools of the river, and fish stayed, and the bear, who fished, also culled deer fawn, and to their kill scraps came vulture and coyote, long gone in the region until now, and their scattered seed and more trees, brush, and berries grew up along the river that had run straight and so flooded, but thus dammed, compelled to meander, is less prone to overrun. Don't you tell me this is not the same as my story. All this life born from one hungry animal, this whole new landscape, the course of the river changed. I know this. I reintroduced myself to myself. This time, a mother, after which nothing was ever the same.
These stories, the wolves coming back to Yellowstone, simply being themselves, and therefore affecting other species until the paths of the rivers themselves change, or a person's life altered by the introduction of one other person. It is astonishing what impact one element can make. 7 or 8 years ago, there was a book that swept through what seemed like everybody I knew who read social change books. It's called Emergent Strategy. It was written by Adrienne Marie Brown. And this book is one that looks at social change movements differently. It's not one about careful, strategic 5, 10, 15-year planning. It's one that looks at emergence as a way that change gets made. Emergence is a name for the phenomenon of many small changes adding up to one larger one. You might think about wind, for example. One air molecule does not exert very much pressure, and it doesn't really have temperature that we can perceive. But enough air molecules make a gust of wind that can knock things down. It can feel cold or warm. You might also think about ants. Now, maybe one ant is alarming enough for you. It certainly is for me when that ant is in my kitchen. But one ant is not very impactful, really. An entire colony of ants, however, makes a big difference. This property of emergence is one that we can apply as a lens for understanding human interactions and human change as well. Some of this is an example of what is called biomimicry, looking at what we see around us in the natural world and learning from it, learning to copy it. Some of it is simply a way of describing truths that we might have disregarded in the past. Brown lists the following principles of emergent strategy. She writes, small is good, small is all, the large is a reflection of the small. Change is constant, be like water. There is always enough time for the right work. There is a conversation that only these people in this moment can have. Find it. Never a failure, always a lesson. Move at the speed of trust. Focus on critical connections more than critical mass. Build resilience by building relationships. Trust people so that they become more and more trustworthy. Less prep, more presence. And finally, what you pay attention to grows. Some of these are pretty straightforward. Some of them need a little unpacking. Each of them could be a whole sermon unto itself, but we don't have enough time today for me to preach you 8 sermons. But let's talk about a couple of them. When Brown says the large is a reflection of the small, she is talking about fractals. So if you picture fractals, the way that the small pattern builds upon itself, the large pattern and the small pattern are essentially the same, just zoomed in and zoomed out. You can think about frost crystals on a windowsill. Or if you have the kind of farmer's market experience I tend to have, you can think about a head of Romanesco broccoli. Some people call it dinosaur broccoli. It's actually technically a type of cauliflower, but don't let that stop you. It's the kind of conical one. And if you look at it, the whole head looks like it could be a floret on a giant head because it is made up of a cluster of florets, and each cluster is made up of a cluster of smaller florets. So, the large is a reflection of the small. What we do at the smallest level informs what we build to. Now, it's mostly common for people to say, oh, I know an example of that not working out. Maybe you can think about, let's say, an office where the office culture was that people were awfully rude to each other, but very kind to the patients or the clients or the customers who came in. Wouldn't it be better to build an office culture of kindness as well? Maybe you can think of a nonprofit that says, we are too busy and putting too many resources towards lobbying for universal health care to be able to give health insurance to all of our employees. These are common problems, so Brown calls us to attend to the way that the very foundation that we build, the way we organize ourselves inside smaller groups, helps us to create our values on the highest levels. And honestly, economics teaches us about this too. I remember often taking a microeconomics class when I was in college, and at the end of a lot of units about microecon, our professor said, now you're ready for macroecon. And we said, what? I only signed up for a microecon class. He said, well, microeconomics is the study of how individual people make decisions. And economic theory says enough individual people acting together in a group are basically the same as one individual large person. So all the microeconomic principles just scale up. So what you do, how you choose to care for your neighbors, how you invest in your learning and your own growth, what you do influences what we can all do and how we can all make a difference in the world. And what we do in concert with other UU congregations shapes the difference we can make as a denomination. Let's look at another of Brown's principles. Moving at the speed of trust. This is another one that's really hard to actually live out, because often we want to get really quickly to our intended outcome, as fast as possible. You can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs, right? Except if moving too quickly means not bringing people along, it doesn't really match our intended outcome. Imagine this. You're saying to someone you have never met or laid eyes on before, "Quick, get in my car, I'll take you to safety." It's not going to work, right? So often building trust and moving at the speed of that trust is necessary. And building relationships, frankly, is always key, whether or not we are working towards certain goals. It is key to our resilience. Authoritarian scholar Timothy Snyder, who wrote a powerful little book called On Tyranny, reminds us that when you are resisting authoritarianism, making eye contact and making small talk are important actions because they keep our social fabrics intact. They keep us in enough relationship that there is something to build on when it is time to create more trust. So as we face down these coming years, which we're pretty sure will contain chaos and challenge and crisis and probably some other words that start with C, I have been thinking about emergence, these principles, and about trophic cascades. Trophic cascade technically is a biological term having to do with the levels of the food web in the ecosystem and how changes cascade from level to level. And I don't mean to bring that up in the sense of that old eat or be eaten principle of human relationships. I want to bring it up to invoke, as our poem did today, the power of change to ripple out. Camille Dungy's poem illustrates the ways that each of us have ecosystems inside us. The ways that change creates change, creates change, creates an alteration to the landscape. History offers us countless examples of the ways that small changes can creep up on us and produce major alterations. Again, like the fractals, we can probably think of many unfortunate examples that we don't wish to live out. Too many people who choose to just quietly withdraw from public life, and then there's no one present to resist injustice or notice the misfortune or the suffering of neighbors. Too much carbon in the atmosphere adds up little by little until the entire climate system is overly energized, producing high-speed winds like a dry hurricane that spread fires all over Los Angeles. Meanwhile, there's snow in Alabama. These changes add up in unexpected ways. And it is also true that small changes add up in powerful ways toward repair and healing. Many people choosing to remain connected to each other creates a cascade of impacts. Every time you perform an act of kindness for a stranger, every time you speak up to challenge words of oppression or disdain, every time you share what you have with others, You make a difference. You contribute to our overall ecosystem of connection. This ecosystem is built on respect for each other's inherent worth and dignity, and it requires constant reinvestment. You are part of changing the flow of the rivers of our society, part of shaping our collective sense of what is normal, expected, and how things flow. And it's important to remember, too, that climate scientists are telling us every bit of climate resilience makes a difference. Every action to emit a little less CO2, every action to draw down the excess in the atmosphere, every change we make to reduce our fossil fuel consumption matters. Catherine Hayhoe, a Canadian climate scientist and educator, recently shared a slide from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which reads simply, "Every action matters. Every bit of warming matters, every year matters, every choice matters." In a time when we are painfully aware how much has already added up to make harsh and destructive differences in the climate of this beautiful planet, it is important for us to remember that we can make choices that open up the space and the possibility of healing and restoration. Do you remember that hole in the ozone layer that we were so worried about in the 90s? Did you know it is repairing itself? It's smaller every year because enough people figured out how to make enough changes. It is astonishing, these stories of ecosystems reasserting themselves when keystone species return, or ecosystems rewilding simply because humans said, you know what, we're going to leave it alone and see what happens. And I think it is even more heartening to learn about the ways humans have historically been and currently are being partners in ecosystem healing. As I've been reading about the fires in California, I've also been reading about the long stewardship of managed burns practiced by indigenous peoples who have lived in California since time immemorial. It matters that we find ourselves in these relationships. It matters that we honor them. It matters that we understand ourselves not as powerless and also not as destined to control everything, but instead as having a part to play in the life of our planet and the life of our country and the life of our city. We are asked to engage in the fractal practice of being a presence that contributes to the thriving of all. So, as we face the coming years, do not sacrifice yourself in acts of martyrdom, but also don't hole up in your house and pretend to be separate from the world. But also do not saturate yourself with the bad news on a scale that overwhelms you. Instead, work the levels of the fractal. Do for one person what you wish you could do for all. Care for yourself and those in your life with exquisite tenderness. Imagine the better world writ large, and then live as if a little bit of it had already come to pass. And trust that you, like a wolf reintroduced to Yellowstone, are making a contribution simply by being present as yourself. Live your values, live your truth, be who you are, and know that when you do, the rivers slowly but inexorably change course. May it be so. I wonder if you will join in a singing meditation with me this morning. The words are very simple. They are, "What we need is here." The melody is 2 lines. You're welcome to listen, to hum, to begin singing, to change locations if the beautiful sun has come out and is shining on your face now. Whatever you need to do. What we need is here. 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 You can make a round if you'd like. What we need is here. 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 Thank you. We will sing this again in the years to come. For now, let us join in an act of doing what we can as Gloria comes forward to introduce our offering.
Do you know over 1,000 kids in this community will experience homelessness this year? 1,000 kids. As most of you know, we here at UUCS contribute each month to a local organization which we have found contributes to the betterment of our community. This month, a portion of our offering will go to Family Promise. Many of you have volunteered your time, and some of you as much as an overnight stay or meal, to Family Promise, as we have hosted many unhoused families over the years. As a reminder of their mission, I'm going to just quote what I found on the Family Promise website. Since opening our doors in 1999, we have served thousands of individuals and over 2,000 families with children. Last year alone, families with a total of nearly 400 children were successfully housed and able to maintain those homes, reflecting our 98% success rate, 98%. A success rate of helping families build a life of self-sufficiency. We also donate each week food and money to the Marion Pope Food Share. You may leave your donations in the little red wagon that's here in the front of the sanctuary, or you may drop a donation to the Marion Pope Food Share in the wagon after the service, as the little wagon will return to the foyer. Your monthly pledge or other offerings may be dropped in the bags that will be coming your way. Or you may visit uusalem.org and click on Donate to view your options. You may also scan the QR code, which is on your screen and on your order of service, but please don't ask me to help with that because I am completely clueless when it comes to QR codes. We thank you for your kind generosity.
and every time I get to visit such a wonderful congregation. I would like to offer you one of the lesser-known Scott Joplin rags. It's one of my all-time favorites and happens to be the title of the sermon for today. So enjoy the Cascades.
I always love it when Stephanie comes because she's just wonderful. I love it. Makes me smile. So next Sunday, it says a ministry of presence. I didn't write this down. I can't see it very well. Animals bringing unconditional love, and I can attest to that because we have a little animal, and he's here today if anybody ever wants to meet him. So Eric Schumann and Diane Young will be talking about how and why animals bring joy, love, and love to people in hospitals, nursing homes, and schools and prisons, and our house. So I really hope that you can join us next week. I know it's going to be a wonderful presentation. And Eric has brought one of his beautiful dogs today, and I'm sure they'll be in the sanctuary, or in the fellowship hall after the service.
You also are invited to stay after the service, get your coffee, but then come back to the sanctuary for a board forum. We're going to be talking about this transition period, transitional ministry questions and ideas about our goals for this period. So please do come and join me and the board. There is, as always, a lot going on, which hopefully you are receiving in our weekly Friday emails and our monthly newsletters. If you're not, you can check in at the greeter desk or contact Emma and Joe in our office. I do want to lift up one community, as in broader Salem-Kaiser event, which is happening. So maybe you remember the women's marches of 2017, when people, really of all genders, gathered on every single continent, even on Antarctica. There was a scientific research ship that held a march to protest the many oppressive ideas and words and plans of Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign as he took office. Now that we are at the beginning of his second term, there are many other marches and gatherings being organized to protest once again the dire and destructive plans he has proposed and ideals he has espoused. So there is a People's March scheduled for this coming Saturday, January 18th, at the Capitol Building in Salem from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. It is not a march, but more of a sign-holding event. I don't know the details of what permits were or were not obtained, but you're welcome to show up with signs demonstrating the values that you support and want to defend, because this sort of gathering is about reminding ourselves and everyone that the power rightly belongs with the people, and that the people want a country that supports the thriving of all of us and of all the species with whom we share the earth. So I am sure there will be future marches and sign-holding opportunities and protests in the coming years on immigration and environmental justice and for gender-affirming care and reproductive rights and economic justice, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the first of them is happening this Saturday. So if you're moved to do so, you are invited to attend. And whether you attend or not, remember that a march or a sign is a useful symbol of commitment, a useful reminder of solidarity. It is not an end in and of itself, but it can be a beginning or a recommitment. So whatever you choose to do in these sorts of events, may it be part of the larger difference that you make with your life.
Monica is going to help light the social justice candle. Each week we do light our social justice candle, and I'm reminded, as Monica said well, I think, in her message, that no one can do everything, but everyone can do something. We could go big and run for office. No, I'm not going to do that. Or we could just do those small actions that make the world an easier place in which to live. Smile at your neighbor. Say thank you to the person who bags your groceries. Give cookies to your mail carrier. And I actually did that this last week. It felt pretty good, yeah, because we have an awesome mail carrier. As we extinguish our chalices this morning, let us go in love, and remember to be loving and kind and grateful as we go through the coming days.
With that spirit of love, let us please rise as we are able and sing our closing hymn, number 131, Love Will Guide Us.
On the road from
like to take hands with your neighbor, I would like to do, let us say our closing words. May faith in the Spirit of life, hope for the community of earth, and love for the sacred in one another be ours now and all the days to come. Blessed be.